So we're continuing on in our sewed class as I can, and we are now on page Mem Zayin, and we are at the top of Mem Zayin with number Yud Aleph on page Mem Zayin. So I'm going to read through Yud Aleph. Yud Aleph has quite a few little parts to it, and it sounds, at least on the outside, a little bit difficult to understand. Again, as we learn, we're learning nomenclature, we're learning the words that the Rav uses in order to interchange, balance out, and bring us to the point that he wants to make. So, reading number Yud Aleph, we're going to read it right through on the top, and we'll try to go down to the bottom and get as much done as we can today. Number Yud Aleph says, V'hinei kan ba'olam Haakudim. Here we are in Olam Haakudim. It's very, very panimi to reality. Hayizun gedolim al abba be'ima. Zun, that's Zachav V'nuk, that means Zer Anpen, and Malchus are greater than Abba Ve'ima. Abba Ve'ima are also known as Chachma and Bina. Ki Zun koyu panim bepanim, because Zun are able to be facing each other, panim bepanim. This is an idea that it's going to be developed later on down the line, what it means to be panim bepanim. For Abba Ve'ima ach ba'ach. And so we notice that in the text, if you look at the text, that the word ach is pronounced, achor is pronounced ach. You could pronounce it achor, but the Kabbalists always pronounce it ach ba'ach, because the feeling about the Kabbalist has is that your backside, what's called the backside, is the place where dinim are located. Much of Kabbalah, all of Kabbalah say, is the idea of sweetening dinim, not taking them away, but making them sweeter. We need dinim because they're the creative force, but on the other hand, if they're just criticizing you, beating you down, and bringing different kinds of things of desperation that people have, if that's the kind of dinim that are really the bad dinim, the unsweetened dinim that are punishing. So we don't say the word achor, we say just the word ach. So the words are kizun koyu panim bepanim, they were facing each other face to face. V'abba v'ima ach ba'ach, they still had not turned, they were facing each other, they were back to back. It's not explaining this 100% yet. And the reason why is because Zun has been completed all of their needs, everything that they have to have. Both of them have the 5 lights on the outside, in the inside, and the 2 makifim. That's as a result of the lights coming down from the Pada'ak before they start reversing themselves and going back upwards. Masha Ein came by Abba Ve'ima, which is not the case by Abba Ve'ima. Again, words referring to Chachma and Bina. Ki Adayim lo choyu shleimim, because they still did not have the 5 oros penimim and the 2 makifim. Shahare la'Abba lo choyu rak shlosha penimim. All Abba has, that's Chachma, had only the 3 lights which are Naran on the inside, and that's Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama. Lavad bali shum makif. There was no makif for him. But the ima chamisha oras benimim, she had the ranchi on the inside. Lavad u bali shum makif, with no makif. She's not complete. So in one sense, you see that what's the idea of panim befanim versus ach ba'ach? I don't know if the Tiv is going to say that. The point is that later, as we come to reproduction, is that the concept is that for the male and the female to be facing each other is the reproductive mode. So this is how reproduction takes place. But when they're back to back, there's no reproduction there. They're not, the points of communication are blocked. So then not only that, but even before any sphera comes back, to go back into the ma'atzil, they already had everything they need for the word zivug. Now, the word zivug, again, we understand means intercourse. So many Kabbalists do not use this word. It's another one, and they euphemize the word again, because zivug is so basic to our sexuality, which is a point at which the Kali really are after us, right at that place of reproduction. So he says that, let me read this again. So Kabbalists, many of them don't use that word, they use the word yichud. And we do talk about yichudim all the time. But joining male and female forces together into one, and that unity, which requires communication, patzufim, and all things working, which we have not developed these thoughts yet with the beginning of it, that's all that's necessary for the yichud. So what's going on? He says, well, you already know. Ki ha-zivug nimshach min ha-malchin. Where does zivug come from? It comes from a higher place. In other words, you have, as we understand, the gray matter in your body is really generated out of your brain. So gray matter ultimately winds up in seed, in sperm. And that's as far as a human being is concerned. Shehem Chachma Lamata, which is talking about this area of the Mochin. Chachma is where the Moach is. The Mochim are Chabad, Chesed, Chachma, Bina, and Das. So they come out of the head. Zah has a Chachma because we said he has a Narantchi. So the Chai in the Narantchi corresponds to Chachma. Shehi Chaya Panimis, which is called the Chaya Panimis. So it has a Chaya. Now, here's a thought that's just something to store away, is that Yichud cannot take place. That's what he's saying. If there's not present the or, the light, or the power source that's comes from Chaya, which corresponds to Chachma. But before they start going backwards, and this going backwards is probably in the next chapter, we'll start talking about what happens as they go backwards. Shuhu Arishon Shechazer Kodem Kulam. So this is the first one that goes back before all of them. So we see that Malchus is greater than I think he's talking about Zun. Let me see, make sure that I didn't get lost. The Keser is the first one. Shuhu Arishon Shechazer Kodem Kulam. And even though the Malchus Chesed Gedolim B'Mena was greater than that, Shehoya Lo Yechida Penimis, which had a Yechida in this inside, Ein Bezech Shash, we're not worried about that. Masha Ein came Ba'aba. In other words, as long as Zah has a Chai, even though he doesn't have a Yechida, he's capable of reproducing, which means he's capable of going Panim B'Panim. So these ideas go together. Reproduction, in other words, bringing the new Neshamas into the world, that's really what reproduction is all about. Has to be face to face. The spheros have to be facing each other. So if you have a situation where there's no chaya, then they're not facing each other yet. So the by Abba never had a chaya. So therefore there's not going to be any yichud. Even after Keser goes to the matzel, Abba only has 3 oros penimios. That's all he has. So let's look at the Tiv. We have a little bit of time to go through this, and let's see what the Tiv says on number Yud Aleph. He says, light print, if you're following, and I will send pages out, with God's help. B'seder Rabinowitz Olomos Omdim Abba Ve'ima L'Mala Mebedregas Mebedregas Zun. So we understand that as the Olamos are laid out, we have Eric Anpen, we have Abba Ve'ima, then we have Zachar V'Nuk. Those are 5 different levels, of the Partzufim. In those 5 different levels, you could see obviously that Abba Ve'ima are on the top of Zachar V'Nuk. So he says, B'seder Hamidus Alamos Omdim Abba Ve'ima L'Mala Mebedregas Zun came into Abba Ve'ima Heim Chachma Bina B'Zun Heim Zayin Midos Atachtonos. And he's just introduced a new phrase. He calls them the Zayin Midos, or measuring stations. Lower measuring stations down below. Amnam kam ba'olam ha'Hakudim, but here we see that in olam ha'Hakudim, kol yuzun yozer shleimim ba'abba ve'ima me'abba ve'ima, that zun are more complete than abba ve'ima. So because the completion starts at the bottom, not at the top. Ki zun kvar nishlamu b'kol ha'sheva b'china shalachem, because they're already completed in the 7 bechinos. Shehem hey oros penimim b'beis oros makifim. That's the completion of what Zachar V'Nuk can get. Terem chazarasa and lamatzila b'pedaak, before they go back to their creator, which is a way of saying the matzilim, that force, that energy that caused them to come out in the first place. Before they came back, they were already complete. V'zecha v'gorm sheyiha oram gadol, and this causes that the amount of light that they're holding is tremendously powerful. And as a result of that, both of their very powerful lights, they're able to turn from the normal position, which we have not explained 100%, and it will be explained as we go forward. The Rav will talk about it in detail. Is that allows them to become panim b'panim, She'inyanu Yisbor L'Holon later on is going to be explained, but in order, as we say, to reproduce a Neshamas Chadashos and bring Oros of the Ein Sof Baruch Hu down into the lower worlds, they have to be face to face. Let's go on. This is number Yud Beis in light print. He says, Aval Partsufi Abba Ve'ima Lo Nishlu B'Bekol B'Chinoseichim, but the Partsufim, the systems, again, the communication systems of Abba Ve'ima are not complete, not like Zun. Once they get into Pad Da'ak, then they're not part of the game anymore, of the Haakudim. They're being completed up there. They're not part of the regular chain anymore. So because before they got to the Pad Da'ak, Zocher and Nuk were already complete. Abba is missing 4 different parts. Remember, there's 7 bechinos here. That is Naranchi Bifnim, which is 5, and then you have a Chai Yechida on the outside, which is 7, which is 2 plus 5 makes 7. So he says, Shahare Choyulo Rak Gimel Bechinos Naran Benimi, and they only had 3 bechinos that were in the inside, which are called Naran. This word Naran, you can see it all over the joint. It's going to be everywhere. It's a phrase that refers to Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama. It also refers to the part, really, of Ima, or the upper parts of that it penetrates into the lower parts. So we're going to see how that works. It's down the line. It's absolutely beautiful. V'adayim chaser base oros penimim, so it still did not have a Chai Yechida penimim. V'chein choya chaser base oros makifim, it also didn't have the Chai Yechida makifim. V'chein ima choysa chesera shnei oros makifim, and ima, even though she had a complete Naranchi, but she doesn't have the oros penimim, oros makifim rather. V'hoyelo rak Naranchi penimim, she only has the Naranchi penimim. Nimsa shazun ma'ulim yoser ma'ava ve'ima. So we say that Zun is on a higher level in this sense because they're able to be more. They are more complete. They are complete, more complete in the Haakudim than Abba ve'ima. Going on, he says va'od yesh siva shazun ma'ulim ma'ava ve'ima be'inyan nice. If there's another thing that we can add to this that shows you that Abba ve'ima are less than Zun. So he said before the spheros, the chain started moving back towards the Pad Da'ak, the mouth of the Matzel. That's before Keser went back, because Keser's right here, is right next to the mouth. Before any of that happened, they're already able to make a yichud. Now here is the word zivug. But you see how it is that the tivs, obviously big time of Kollel, he switched the word from zivug to yichud, and so that's very common. Is that people want to use the word yichud instead of the word zivug because of connotations. Since both of them already have an aspect of chaya penimis. Because the Chai Panimis is the activated force, that the force that actually brings things into actualization, neged Chochma, because it corresponds to Chochma. Masha Ein came B'Shar Partsufim, which is not the case of the rest of the parts of Partsufim, Shahoyu Cheserin, that are missing something. Below Hoyu Cholin His Yachid, they can't make a Yichud. Kodem Haknisa the Pad Da'ak. So this is mashma that when they get back into the Pad Da'ak, the disparate parts of that is the Penimius and the Makif can make a yichud. There could be some kind of a yichud could take place between the male-female parts of these. There's many different ideas brought into this, which will be elucidated as we learn the HaChaim. Now all of this is going to be explained. But you can't help the Rav introduces you to words and ideas that they're not completely useful yet, but nonetheless is the beginning. In order for the Partsufim again to be able to make a yichud, again, what's the purpose of a yichud? The purpose of yichud, which you understand as intercourse, the purpose of that is to produce the Shabbos Chadashos. Lo dai sheyesh b'chem naran. It's not enough for them to have a naran, Elatzark shetihia bechem gam bechinas chaya penimis. They also have a chaya. They also must have the chaya penimis. So the chaya penimis against its chokhmah. Remember, we had this phrase, reishas chokhmah. Chokhmah is the beginning. So if you have a chokhmah, you can begin. Without that, it doesn't begin. So he said, so shetihia gam bechinas chaya penimis rak oz yecholim apartzuf, and then only then are the partzufim able lachzor paneh b'paneh v'liyisyached, go to face and make a yichud. Shaharei tipas a yichud nimshechas min hamochi, because the tipa has to come from the mochi. We said before, the connection of gray matter between the brain and where it ultimately comes out in yichud, that connection has to start at a certain place, which is chaya or chokhmah. Became sharak ima nishlaba b'nerantchi. Only ima has only a nerantchi kodem chazarasa the peda'ak, before she gets back into the peda'ak. V'abelo nishlaba b'chinas chaya shabo. He never gets a chaya. Im kain lo choyu ru'uyim the yichud kodem chazarasa the peda'ak. So what do you say like this? He made pairs here. He said that Chachma and Bina also have the oros within them of Chaya, in the Neshama. Those two are male and female. And as a result of that, that's the yichud that we're talking about. Now, Zachav and Nuk can make that yichud. That is Zer Anpin and Malchus can make that yichud. Again, this is like Vav and K of the Yud K. Vav K, the first part would be a yichud between the Yud and the K, and the next part would be the yichud between the Vav and the final K. So what you're having there is these different kinds of transfers. And again, remember that the name Yud K Vav K, if we didn't say this, or you should know, is the name of building the communication system that allows the shefa from the Most High, which would be, in our case, is always going to be Breish Reishas, it's Chachma, that comes down from Keser into Chachma, and the Chachma starts to spread throughout the body. We have the 32 Nesivos of Chachma. We have lots of different things that we could discuss and go on and on, but the basic thing is that without the connection to the ultimate source of the gray matter, you can't have Yichud, and therefore you can't have Panim B'Panim. Both of them had a chaya pnimi. So therefore they're fit, they could make a yichud. So since we see that they're able to make a yichud, so therefore we say about them that they're standing panim b'panim, face to face. Abba v'ima, again, he reiterates, is not the case by Abba v'ima shelo hoyu cholim d'tziached hoyu omdim ach ba'ach. So since the situation, and we have to explain, and he will explain later, is that this is all almost in the world of potential, because it's not really built up into 10 real spheres. It's only one sphere with 10 parts, and the 10 parts here are becoming a model for what's going to be developing later. And so we understand that even though that we're not talking about the yichud that we have here in this world, or even the yichud in higher worlds, this is very, very preliminary to everything. Let's go on and try to see if we can just keep bombing through this. So the next part is a number Yud Daled. He said, "V'chatam shezun koyu ru'uyin l'zivuk." Here he uses the word zivuk. So now you're getting the idea that it can be used both ways, but a lot of Kabbalists, like I said before, like to use the word yichud. So he said, "V'chavatam shezun koyu ru'uyin l'zivuk mifnei shapartzufim eini yocholim l'syached kodim shehiyah bechem mochin b'chachma lamata." So the reason why they can't is that if you don't have a chachma, then you can't make a yichud. Ki tipas a yichud nimshechas min hamochin, because we said before, it has to come from chachma, which is where the mochin start. So therefore, when the lights are coming down through the mouth of Ak, and they're bringing to Zun the concept of Chaya, in the light of Chaya inside of them, Shehiba B'chinas Chachma, Heim Na'asim Ro'im L'Zivuk, so they become ready for Zivuk. V'hinei Kodim She'aloch HaKeser L'Matzah, but before we see like this, that before Keser, started to go backwards, and the chain it's coming down out of the mouth of the ak. Now it starts to come back, and as we said before, Kesser is the first one to go back in. It's the last out, first in. Kavar Choya the Zecha bebechinas Chaya. Gavazah already had a Chaya. Ki harei bi'arno shebeshash yatsa Kesser, because we said that when Kesser came out, coming out of the mouth, lo yatsa ela bebechinas nefesh bilvad. It itself was only a nefesh. But it added something into what's down below it, because its lowest state, the lowest stage of or, of light, of Chachma, is higher than any stage inside of Chachma, which is the sphere below it. And there's the Chaya that came in. This is when Kesser comes out. Malchus gets the Yechida. So this is when the lights are settled in their places. This is before Kesser went back. They were already, again, he's reiterating that they already had this Chaya, and as a result of that, there is a potential for Yichud between them. It's the first one to go back to the pad da'ak. Kodim sha'alu kol Shaar spheros, before any of the other spheros went up. So then he says, going on to number Tesvav in the light print only, it says, yes, the Kesser b'pad da'ak. As the Kesser went back to the pad da'ak, the Tosva b'zecha b'chinas Chaya. Chaya gets, before that, Zah has a Chaya. Of a Malchus the Tosva b'chinas Yechida, it also has a Yechida. But for sure it has a Chaya too. The Nimsa the Fizeh, Shachar b'Malchus, the Haakudim Yoser Gedola Umaula Mezah. So we see that in this sense, in the world of Haakudim, you have more completion, more perfection in Malchus, which is the lowest sphere, than you have in Zeranpin, which is above it. Ki Kodim Baliyas Akesa the Pad Da'ak, because again, he's saying the same thing again, because before the lights go back into the Pad Da'ak, Kavar Nizgala b'Malchus b'chinas Yechida. It already has Yechida, which is the highest level inside of Malchus. But Zah didn't have a Yechida yet, it only had a Chaya. So exactly how it is, the Rav is going to explain how it is that this makes this possible. So here you have a situation where the female is complete and the male is not. So how is it possible for them to make this yichud? But this doesn't hold them back from making a yichud, and he's explaining it around this way and that way and this way and that way. As long as there is a chaya, the chaya is the potential for things to happen. So he says, "V'kemen shel l'shneihem hein l'zav hein l'nuk." So that since both of them, whether we're talking about Zeranpin or we're talking about Malchus, yesh bechinas chaya, since they both have a chaya, but l'tzorach hayichud dai bechinas chaya. If you want to make this, make a yichud, you don't have all of the brain matter. You need the first piece that spreads. That's what chaya is able to do. That's what the light of chaya does. This is what the sphere of Chochmah does, is it is the place of the beginning of the flow, the top of the Mississippi River, say, like, for example, wherever it starts out of the spring. So he says, so therefore they have the potential to stand panim, face each other. Shuhu sphere is a Chochmah, who is the sphere called Chochmah. When it moves up, because Kesser moved into the pad da'ak, and now Chochmah moves to there. All of the pad da'ak before it also will go into the pad da'ak. Lo choyu lo bechinas chaya. It didn't have a chaya. El rak bechinas the shama. The shama was an aran. That was the highest amount of light it had. So therefore was not able to make a yichud with ima. And so that we see, whereas we see that before the aliyah of ima the pad da'ak, she really did have all the aspects of the Rantchi, but her partner, who is Abba, doesn't have all of this. But when she gets her complete Narantchi, Abba's gone. It's back in the pad da'ak. So there's no possibility when he's in the pad da'ak. He's not out where he's going to be producing. She's going to be in the reproductive sphere, shebachutz the pad da'ak, which is going on outside of the pad da'ak. So then we understand that Abba ve'ima in that olam are back to back to each other. That there is no possibility of a direct communication or exchange between Abba ve'ima for the purpose of reproducing the Shabbos Chadashos. Because it was missing the aspect of Chaya. So therefore we see this is the reason why the Rab took us through all of this, to understand why it is that in the case of the Olam Haakudim, Abba ve'ima are less than Zocher v'Nuk, even though that we understand that Abba is Yud, Ima is the first K, Zer Anpin is the next K, which is the Vav, and the last K is Malchus. And if you arrange them top to bottom, you would see that Malchus is on the bottom. But over here, we see that it's more complete. And that's a message, and it's a hidden message in here about Chaya, which comes back later in other places we see about reproduction is the whole name of the game, bringing the new neshamos chadashos into this lower world through the shefa of the Ein Sof Baruch Hu. Amen. Thanks for listening.